all good fantastic books and where to find them. Today we are back on Crackpot Theories, and this time we're speaking Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Lord of Shadows is the second book, Dark Artifices series, which is the third series of books in the Shadowhunters Chronicles, again by Cassandra Clare. That incorporates all the other spin-off books as well, like you've got the Bane Chronicles, Tales from Shadowhunter Academies, and that sort of thing. So in advance, this is going to be full of spoilers for all of those books. If you've not read any of those books, or you're missing some of them and you plan to read them, this video unfortunately is not going to be for you. With Cassandra Clare, she loves to put a bit of everything in all her books. There will be spoilers for everything in this, basically, so I'm really sorry. Go read what you've missed. You've got until May 23rd, which is when the Lord of Shadows book comes out, so try and be up to date by then. I do have a video for how best to read Shadowhunter Chronicles, if you haven't already, and that is on my channel. I will hopefully put a link somewhere if I remember how to do it. Now, we have had a little book trailer that's dropped. I'll play that for you guys now and see what you think. So yeah, we didn't really get much in that, but it's still pretty cool, and we have that awesome tagline, would you trade your soulmate for your soul? Which fits perfectly with the idea that Emma and Julian are Paratime, but they have fallen in love, and that's super bad in the Shadowhunters world. I'll get to why. So, with the trailer we can see that London is going to be a thing. It's on the cover of the book as well. You have London Bridge on there. So that's been confirmed by Cassandra Clare that part of this book will take place in the London Institute. That can be for a few reasons. Annabel and Malcolm both met and fell in love in Cornwall, which is only a few hours drive really from London, and it's in England, and obviously London is like the main English institute, so we hear of really. We also have Arthur, who runs the LA Institute. He is originally from the London Institute, so again, that could come into it. Or we have the fact that Tessa and Jem are obviously from the London Institute as well, and they have been briefly involved. They're looking for Malcolm's body and the Black Book after the events at the end of Lady Midnight. And they're also from, they're looking for Kit. But they don't know it's Kit. They're looking for this Shadowhunter child, who's dangerous apparently. Can this mean that Kit perhaps is the Lord of Shadows? Because Lady Midnight also referred to Annabel Lee in that. So it was a title. So Lord of Shadows I think is going to be a title in this one for a person in the book. Could this be Kit somehow? I mean, obviously we know that Kit's great-great-great-grandmother, I believe, was saved by Cortana loss, unbeknownst to the Clave. So it'd be quite dangerous, I guess, for the Clave to find out that that's how they've got this new Shadowhunter, because he is a Herondale. He's actually Jonathan Herondale, I think is his actual name. His father's now dead, and he's obviously going to be playing a part, I think, in the LA Institute somehow. So we have the cover again, actually, and in the trailer we see the sword. Now, it's a short sword. This could be Cortana, which is Emma's sword, Emma Carstairs, but she never takes it off, so why would Julian have it? But there was such a big thing, I think, in that trailer, because it's such a small trailer. I assume what they're putting in is going to be important, and there's like a long shot of the sword, and then you've got Julian holding the sword, and because it's a short sword, it could be Cortana. I think Cortana's going to be important, so I think that's probably why it's been shown in the trailer. So, moving on from that, and down into the nitty-gritty. So the big main question really is, who is the Lord of Shadows? It could be someone completely new, or it could be someone we know. It could be Kit, because he's been classed as being dangerous, and he's a Herondale. So in the Infernal Devices, we find obviously Tessa marries Will and they have kids. Obviously because she's married Will, she becomes a Herondale, and so do their children. And eventually down the line you have James Herondale, who inherits some of Tessa's gifts. He can hide himself in shadow. He obviously is then going to be related to Jonathan Herondale, also known as Kit. So maybe Kit has his shadow power, and through that he then becomes Lord of Shadow somehow. Or, and this is originally in like an internet theory, like a group of people came together and had this theory, and it makes sense though. And that is that Julian is the Lord of Shadows. I personally don't think it, I don't know, I think that maybe, see, originally I was like, nah, definitely not him, but the more I think about this theory, the more I think maybe it's actually a thing. And that is, again, obviously, James Herondale had his gift. Lucy Herondale, later down in the Herondale line, and she marries Jesse Blackthorn. So then, obviously, the Blackthorn line comes into it, and Julian is a Blackthorn. And, oh my god, I always forgot how much all the Shadowhunter names and surnames came into this, how important they were. There's no mistake, I think, when they're used the way they are, so I think it's got to be important. As we'll see again later, there are more surname-related things, but this is what I'm focusing on for the moment. And, yeah, when you look into their family tree, you have Lucy Herondale, Jesse Blackthorn, and instead of their children, it just says C. Blackthorn Extended Family Tree. Is that because there's someone in between there that is the Lord of Shadows who's going to appear in this book, is going to be a new character and it's going to be kept a secret? Or is it because that's all we need, we just need the Blackthorn's children and that after that, because it's Julian? Like I said, he's becoming crueler and darker, I think, at the end of Lady Midnight, and I think it's only going to get worse in Lord of Shadows. He so willingly and easily gave over Ansel Nightshade, and even Emma says, Jules, you kind of scared me. So now I want to talk about Paratime Magic. So the idea being that when two Parapatai fall in love, they can begin to wield magic, like warlock level magic. And Shadowhunter physiology just isn't built for that. They're not built to wield that kind of power, and it can corrupt them and drive them mad. Personally, I think that we might find out, well, we're going to find out more about the history of Parapatai in this. It's been confirmed apparently. And I wonder if perhaps we will find out it's not quite what it's been made out to be, because I imagine the clave could probably make these things sound worse than they are, because they don't want all these powerful Parapatai going around and being like, we do what we want, sort of thing, because they're going to be so powerful that how can they stop them? Something along those lines, that it's not all what we've been told. But the counteraction to that is the fact that, as previously mentioned, Julian has potentially got some kind of relation to demon blood in his line from Tessa and so on and so forth. So will that mean that he's going to be more able to handle this kind of magic and power? Because we do see he puts a rune on Emma and it's more powerful than it should be. At one point, one of them is healed to the point where, like, it shouldn't have healed them. They should have died. I can't remember who it is, and it's really bad because I'm rereading it at the moment. I apologise. So yeah, that obviously their runes are starting to become more powerful already. So that, I think, is relevant to that. This magic is already, they're starting to wield this already. But yeah, so because Tessa was half demon, part Shadowhunter, and she obviously is a warlock because of that. But that means she has a mostly Shadowhunter physiology, I think, and she's still able to wield power because of that demon blood, because she's half demon. So perhaps that immunity or that resistance will carry on down the line, and it will help Julian. On the flip side, what about Emma? There's, as we said, Cortana being important. I wonder if maybe perhaps when she stabs the Black Book, that she does feel like a pain in her arm, like an electric pain, and it focuses on her endurance rune, which is obviously drawn by Jules. I think when I first read this, I just imagined that maybe this, when she said the book should have killed her, and the endurance rune was taking the brunt of that. But later on, I'm wondering if maybe she's absorbed some of the power from the book, and again, that maybe will help her to be able to wield this power. I hope so. It'd be quite kick-ass if they start being able to, like, do magic and have no consequences. That does not sound like a Cassandra Clare book. Another theory is that perhaps when she stabbed the book, that it broke the Parabato bond. I don't think so. I think that'd be far too anticlimactic. Now, speaking about Cortana, there is a theory that because it's, and the quote is, a blade made by a Wayland Smith can cut anything. Now, does that include the Paratime bond? I think that would be a bit, again, a bit anticlimactic with that. You know, maybe just cutting the runes on their skin would be a bit crap. And it's like, how do you physically cut that? I did wonder if there'd be like a really emotional scene where Emma has to stab Jules. He's going mad, so she's going to have to stab him before he does something horrible to break that bond, to stop them being mad. I don't know. But that has already been done in the Mortal Instruments with Jace and Clary, so I think that would be too repetitive, but you never know. Now, I've always spoken about the history of Paratime and how that's potentially going to be involved, and we have also mentioned Ansel Nightshade. Someone pointed out recently that Jocelyn's mother's maiden name was Nightshade, so that's a Shadowhunter name. Why is that important, you ask? I think perhaps he was previously a Shadowhunter, which is weird because obviously no one's mentioned that he was previously a Shadowhunter, but could that be kept under wraps by the Clave because he was in love with his Paratime and he became a vampire to fix that, to break the Paratime bond, to save whoever he was in love with from going mad and himself. And then obviously something's gone wrong with that, perhaps. I don't know why the Clave would then keep it a secret. It could be like a warning, I guess, like, don't fall in love with your Paratime because then one of you's going to become a vampire to fix it. So who knows, but it does make more sense the more I think about it. Like, Luke was appointed his seat on the council because, I think in part because he was previously a Shadowhunter, so they trust him more. And obviously Ansel Nightshade has offered the seat on the council as well. And then you've got the question, did he father a child with his Paratime perhaps before he became a vampire? And that goes down the line and means that he's technically related to Clary, because obviously Clary is the one who apprehends him. And I wonder if that's because he didn't fight her back because she's his great-great-granddaughter or something like that. So food for thought, and I'll be keeping an eye out for that. I think, as I said before, names have meaning in this, so I don't think it's a coincidence that it's a Shadowhunter name. So now we have Lady Midnight herself, Annabel Lee, rises from the dead, even though Blackthorn blood hasn't been spilt, and that's part of the spell. Could that be? There's a weird theory going around that Malcolm has switched bodies with one of the children, and there's obviously then that body's then killed, but then I don't think that would technically be Blackthorn blood. It would still be Malcolm's blood. Just, it sounds confusing and weird, and it's not something I think is going to happen, but we'll see. I think perhaps Annabel Lee is back from the dead, but she's not quite, the spell's not been finished, so she's not really fully alive, and maybe in some sort of transition, and she has to then get this Blackthorn blood. She has to kill potentially one of the Blackthorn children to finish the spell, or she'll just die again. We'll see. That's kind of a, I didn't even think about it until I finished the book and left it a few days and thought, huh? That shouldn't have happened. Did someone bleed randomly? I don't know, but I assume we'll find out. I also believe that Malcolm isn't dead, or isn't going to stay dead. I hope in a way that he's just not dead anyway, and we'll see him continuing on, trying to win love back, which he technically already did, I guess, for him. I don't want to then see Annabel bringing him back, because I think that would be a bit too much. So my favourite line probably in that book in Lady Midnight was probably Mark saying, "Why lie?" to Emma when she says, "We need to pretend we're dating and we're falling in love." It's probably a little bit hotter than it should have been for me personally, but I think it's going to break Jules, like properly break him. He does say in Lady Midnight, if you and Mark ever got together, I don't think I could come back from that. So that's obviously happened. There is a discussion, I think, with Tessa and Emma, when Tessa basically says, if you get someone to hate you enough, they'll fall out of love with you. Obviously it didn't work for Will, because everyone still loved him. I think it's going to be full of a lot more feels than I'm probably ready for. So then we have Kit and Ty. Now, I didn't even really think about this until I was going through Tumblr stuff probably last week and realised how well this fits. So the next series of books Cassandra Clare has said that they will be set 3 to 4 years after Dark Artifices, and the main characters will be 2 Blackthorn children, 2 younger Blackthorn children, and 1 Herondale who isn't Jace. I wonder who that could be. Could it perhaps be Ty and Livy Blackthorn, who will hopefully be Paratime by then, and Jonathan Herondale? Obviously Kit. Apparently they're going to be officially announced after Lord of Shadows is out, so I wonder if we're going to see the relationship between Kit and Ty gradually build and hopefully change into something more within Lord of Shadows, so then it'll make sense when we get the announcement, because they are going to be the perfect age. They're going to be like 17, 18, which is perfect young adult protagonists, and it just fits too well to not be them, but I guess it remains to be seen, like everything. So I'm not sure how relevant this is actually going to be in this series, and I'm wondering if this is going to play more of a part in the next series or in the adult Magnus Bane series we're going to be getting. But I was wondering what the Dark Artifices were, so this probably isn't relevant, but you never know. And I did wonder if we get the information that the Seelie Queen, if she loses her crown, if her crown is stolen, she'll lose her power, and the Unseelie King, if he loses his cape, he will lose his power. And I wondered if maybe they were the Dark Artifices, but I'm not so sure the more I think about it. But I do want to talk about this anyway, because obviously the Seelie Queen is still missing, and obviously she had a thing potentially with Sebastian, I guess. They were in cahoots, and that was about 5 years ago. And recently, Alec and Magnus have just adopted a child that Alec has found in Buenos Aires, who's 5. That seems like a bit too much of a coincidence for me. But the child does have dark hair, which obviously the Seelie Queen's hair is red, and Jonathan's hair was, Sebastian, same thing, and his hair was like white blonde. So, I don't know, but I think that's going to be just more actually in the Magnus Bane books. But I just wanted to throw it in there just because it came to me while I was thinking about what the Dark Artifices were. I have no idea what the Dark Artifices are going to be, and that's one thing I'm hoping we're going to find out, because we're already going to be on the 2nd book in the Dark Artifices trilogy, and I have no idea what they are. One thing we do know is that 4 named characters are confirmed to die in this book, and I think at least one of them's got to be a Blackthorn, because there are like 7 or 8 Blackthorns. And obviously, and then you've got Emma, and then you've got Christina, and yeah, it could be a mess, I think. Speaking of messes, we have the proposal, the Clay's proposal. We have Jace proposes to Clary just before they come to the LA Institute to help out with the situation there, and Clary hesitates when Jace asks her, and then later on, I think in one of the short stories, she's then, I believe she thinks something along the lines of she's dreading giving Jace her answer. And to be fair, I think she's probably going to say no. And my fangirl OTP heart kind of breaks that a little bit. But to be honest, they're 21. That's really, really young to be married. Not for a Shadowhunter, I guess, because Shadowhunters, they could, they live fast, die young sort of thing. They literally could go out on the battlefield and just die at any time. So they do things a lot younger than it is the norm for mundanes to do. And obviously being brought up a mundane, I think Clary has probably maybe not got to the point where she wants to be married that young, understandably. They're running the head of the Institute now, so that's probably quite a big enough responsibility on its own without then having to get married at 21. I don't blame, well, I say I don't blame her, 'cause I'd probably say yes in a heartbeat because it's Jace Herondale, but I think I like that point of view. Again, I don't know if we're going to get that in this. Maybe we'll have an extra short story added on again, or there'll be another compendium of short stories. It does seem like it would be a bit random, although they are going to be featured in it at least a tiny bit, because I read the last bit of this chapter by accident, and it does say that Clary and Jace are at the Institute, so I don't know, maybe they get there and they're arguing. Who knows, or they're a bit aloof with each other. Anyway, it's kind of weird having them in this book, because for me it's sort of, I love their stuff and I'd happily have another book about them, but this is Julie and Emma. So, but I guess it's only fair seeing as Julie and Emma start off in their books. So that's kind of it. We haven't got long to wait now. And I have ordered like 2 versions of this already. I've ordered the paperback version with this cover, and the Warstones exclusive, which should have some nice little extra bits in it and a map, and is very pretty like my Lady Midnight there. And it'll have the Paratime rune on it instead of the angelic rune like Lady Midnight has. So that'll be really pretty, and I'm looking forward to that. I cannot wait for it to arrive, and I really hope it arrives on time, because I've got such a busy couple of weeks and I want to stay up reading it all night and just regret it the next day. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know about your Shadowhunter hype. Let me know what your favourite Shadowhunter book is, because I've been trying to decide for ages what my favourite is, and I'm honestly stumped. I have no idea. They're just, I love them all. Oh, for me actually the Mortal Instrument books just kind of blur into one, so that probably doesn't help. So thank you all for watching, and the next video will be out again next Saturday, so take care. Goodbye.